All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of The Common Theory. And always, I'm your host, Chris, along with my man, Dallas. And we have a very interesting topic for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the best cards of the format. Like, we are bringing it to you guys. We're going to be like, if you are not playing these cards, you're probably wrong. And with that said, let's kind of just lay it out for you guys. We're going to be going over this in Wooberg order. And let's just hit with our first honorable mention here. Blue has by far the most cards here. So I don't know if that says a little anything about the format, but, I think it says a little bit. But with that said, Dallas, do you want to take us off, my bro?
Yeah, certainly can. First up on our list today, we've got a good chunk of cards, but today we are going to start off with Benevolent Blessing, which is just a really strong protection aura in the format. And obviously, it's really solid because you don't have to choose the color when you're casting it, only when it comes into play, so they have to let it resolve. And you can hit your opponent's creatures with this too.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's pretty much what we're going to be here doing, you guys, just for the record. Like all of these cards are going to be they're going to have more than one purpose. And it's going to be really hard to like even have a debate of why someone could say benevolent blessing is bad to begin with, right? So, yeah, you hit it. I think you're right.
Yeah,
Next one.
very generically strong. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. Next one on our list is Cathar Commando, which is once again just a very solid piece of interaction. It's instant speed with flash as a creature, so you can flash it in as kind of a combat trick, which is nice. Block something they didn't expect you to block, and it's a disenchant.
Yeah. Card's great, man. Like I've won many games with this card. It pretty much pushed cards like Oubliette out of the format. Like the more and more we got of these like destroy artifact or enchantment cards, it's just kind of like destroyed a lot of good enchantments. So
Yeah, not to mention any other synergy it has with your deck being a creature or anything
yep,
like that.
exactly. But next one, man, this is one of my favorite ones. Is Crib Swap. This is one of the strongest removal spells we have. Um, Little honorable mention is Afterlife, which we don't have on our list because Crib Swap being tribal gives you a lot of ways to get this card. It actually gives you a few abilities to tutor with this to get this card in hand, which really pushes it ahead in strength. So,
Yeah, for sure. Easily searchable in a lot of decks, and definitely a strong choice in a vast majority of decks.
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. But what do you think about this next Heliod's Pilgrim, my bro? What do you think of this card?
I think this card's very powerful, especially since to play it, you have to be in white, which means you get to play Benevolent Blessing at a bare minimum. So,
Yep,
at worst, this card is able to search for one of the other cards that we have decided is one of the best.
yep.
So I think it's powerful just for that, not to mention any other strong auras that you might be playing.
Exactly. And you're able to just throw this under the bus, right? So the card is just good.
Yeah,
Overall good. And you could blink it, so there's just so many ways that you could really abuse this card.
for sure. Oh my goodness. I'm now realizing a card we missed. Um,
Reprobation?
no, that one's good, but what do you think about putting Ephemerate on this list?
Hmm. That's actually that's a little bit of a debate. Um I'd almost say that Cloud Shift is stronger for combo purposes,
I mean, yeah,
but
but
ephemeral
Ephemerate's way better in a vacuum.
it is. I agree. But I don't think you could play it typically in just generic lists. I did try that when I started playing white a lot in the format. I was playing Ephemerate as a protection piece. So I could just kind of protect my creatures and blink them out. And if they had ETBs, the card was pretty good. was one of those cards I ended up cutting a lot of the times just for like actual protection and or another card on our list. So
Yeah, I think it's actually just kind of awkward outside of flicker decks. I agree. Like
yep,
it looks like such a busted card because obviously it's busted, but
yep,
your deck really
exactly.
has to be able to make use of it. And white does a good job of that, but
Yep,
just
agreed.
figured I'd bring that one up.
No, I like it, man. I like it. That was a good one. So
Alrighty, I know this next one's near and dear to your heart, so
yes, so late to dinner. Um, yeah. Once this got slotted into Abdel, being able to bring back Abdel and or Peregrine Drake was busted, to say the least. Because very few people realized that that would be coming as soon as they countered, or I would just let the Abdel die and not even fight for it. So this card is just generically good. Also, in a vacuum, just being able to bring back your commander in any white deck is just powerful. Being able to reanimate any creature in your graveyard is absolutely amazing. And the additive food token, that 3 life has come in very clutch in certain scenarios. And or the fact that you're creating a token with a lot of the other cards that we have, like synergy wise, it's been very, very powerful.
it's not insanely broken, but we are a format where life totals matter at least somewhat. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Next one up is O Ring, Oblivion Ring. I put this on here. I know Chris might not be quite as high on it, but it's just generically strong. It's removal for literally any non-land permanent, and it exiles. It's pretty strong. They can't just grab it back. Unfortunately, they can remove the O-Ring and get it back, so there's still problems with the card. 3 mana is a bit expensive, but I think it's a good, generically strong piece of removal to start with in your deck at least.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you said. For the record, I just think the card is even better when you truly build around it. Like if you play cards like Flicker of Fate and are able to blink it out, right? You could kind of get around some of its other little quirks and things of that nature. But generically, I haven't slotted it into too many decks thus far because I end up putting, if it's white and blue, I'll just play blue cards instead, right? But I could see a world where you'd be playing this as just a generic removal spell for sure.
Yeah, that's a common theme amongst a lot of these colors, I'd say. If you're in blue,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But
well,
yeah.
this next card, Prismatic Strands. This card I've had the most. Two cards on our list I've had more blowouts with than anything else, and Prismatic Strands is being able to prevent the color entirely with the flashback is really what puts it over the top. If this card did not have flashback, would not be here. So,
Yeah, the flashback is really valuable. I've found myself putting this into more decks whenever I build white decks. Just more and more often, I'm like, this card actually does a good bit. It hurts Malcolm combos and all the pingers,
yep.
and obviously combat. And yeah, it just does a bit more than you think it does. And 0 mana for flashback is solid.
Yeah, and the blowout potentials that the card really gives you, like being able to swing your team into somebody and you have different colored creatures, like you just say theirs and you just run their team over. So card is very powerful.
Yeah, I used to be much lower on it, but I've come around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can go on to the next card. This is another one of yours, so take it away.
Yeah, good old recommission. The reason I think this card is here, we just got a second variant of this card, but recommission is here specifically because it also returns an artifact and a creature card. And with this card being as powerful as it is, it goes into decks that could really utilize bringing back either their commander or very key pieces that they need for either combo turns or things of that nature. Um, I used to just think it was decent when I would play it in decks like Gut and a few other things, but I've been slotting this card in more and more decks, and it has always really shined when I play it. So definitely think it deserves to be here.
I do want to clarify that you said artifact and creature. It is or you don't get both, just in case
Oh,
anyone was confused on that. Um,
yes, it is an or. My apologies.
but yeah,
Yes.
bringing it back to the battlefield is nice, and the counter can matter. But yeah, for the most part, it's just good value. It's especially if you get a
Well,
3-drop for 2 mana.
the counter matters way more than you think. Like I see that was the part of this card that actually is what puts it over the top for me. So like in Gut as just an easy example, the problem that Gut has is being a 2/2 and it dies to like Fiery Cannonade and Breath Weapon and things of that nature, right? And this card gives it that extra 1 power, which doesn't let it die to those cards anymore. So it's sneakily does a lot of pretty cool little things. So
Yeah, it can certainly come up.
yep.
Um, Next up, we've got Spirited Companion. I think this card just speaks for itself. It's a
Yeah,
two-drop
it
creature that
really
draws a
does.
card. It doesn't even cost life like the Dusk Legion Zealot for black does. And it's an enchantment in case your deck happens to care about that.
It comes up a lot, believe it or not. It blows my mind the fact that it's an enchantment actually matters. So yeah, card is so good.
Yeah,
It's
edict
so weird.
fodder, flicker
Yep.
target, uh, anything you want. And it's a dog,
Yep.
you know? People care
Yeah.
about that, right?
Yeah, it's adorable. Oh man. So I think this next one though is probably maybe if not, let's see, not trying to do a hot take here, but probably the best white card of the format, and that's Stave Off. What do you think of that?
It's gotta be either Stave Off or Benevolent Blessing for me. Um,
Yeah.
Benevolent Blessing being permanent is really nice, and also not being an instant is relevant for some things, like getting around
Hmm.
Dispel. Um,
Yep. Exactly.
but, half the mana is obviously also very relevant, and Stave Off is just strong. Uh,
Yep.
Giving protection from a color is very good in this format.
Oh yeah. And the fact that it's target creature is just so powerful. It really like the way they worded this card is just fantastic. So
Yep, same as
love this
Benevolent
card.
Blessing. You can hit your opponent's Peregrine Drake in response to the Ghostly Flicker. Um, yeah, it's combo stopper,
Which
protection, all that good stuff.
yep, which comes up quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Yeah, I think
So
I use this as interruption much more
yep.
frequently than I use it as protection.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. But last but not least, I think this card used to sit on the sidelines quite a bit, and that is Suture Priest. Um, I think with the rise of like a lot of token strategies and just more and more creatures becoming relevant in the format, this card's value went from being like mediocre to just like few synergy decks and things of that nature, synergistic decks, I should say. And now this card is just kind of like found a home in almost every white deck I've seen. I mean, just if you're playing white, I can't think of a deck that plays white that I haven't seen this card in. What do you think?
I mean, the card's obviously very strong, and same with every card on this list pretty much. The thing is, it's not a synergy piece, so I see a lot of people not play it on occasion. Like, sometimes I have trouble slotting it into a list because I'm like, but it doesn't really do anything for me. But
Really?
it does hurt a decent amount of decks, and the life gain can be relevant. So I
I
definitely want to find a slot for it quite frequently, but
see. I've seen the opposite. Like Phyrexian Sensor plays this, Kadira plays this, Gut plays this, Teshar plays this. Um, what is it? The Orzhov Guildmage plays this. Like,
I
I
mean,
mean,
but that's the thing. Most of those decks, it's actually a synergy piece. Um,
yes,
in a lot of
Abdel
other
plays
decks,
this.
not
Yeah.
really. Like, it's not a synergy piece for Abdel. It kind of is, but the life gain's pretty irrelevant at some point
Yep.
in that deck, right? Um,
I've seen three of these in play at one time. It's
Yeah, it's definitely seeing a lot more play now, which I do think is good.
yeah,
And I think that's
card is
part of
strong.
the reason I don't see Flicker very much anymore, to be quite
Yep.
frank. But
Yep, that card has definitively beat me. When I've sat down with some of my decks, I was able to develop the loop, and I was at 14 life, and I was unable to find an answer for it within that 14 life, and died. So
yeah, but we can go on ahead and move on to blue.
the big, our biggest color, you guys. So this is by far the biggest color we have. We're just gonna do just like we did with white, and just go through it, nice and quick and simple. But I think it definitely should be said that blue is obviously an incredibly very important color scheme for the competitive side of Pauper. And these blue cards here are very, very strong. And yeah, we should be playing these cards. Like, you have to give reasons to not play these cards for sure.
Yeah. First up, we've got Arcane Denial. Um, this is a card that's contested a lot in a lot of multiplayer and 1v1 competitive spaces. It's probably even worse than 1v1. But yeah, giving card draw to your opponents, never something you want to be doing. But on the plus side, it's a counter spell that cantrips, and it only has one blue pip, which is important if you're in more than just mono blue. So,
Yep.
and it
I
hits
mean,
anything. It hits creatures, which is
yep.
definitely relevant in our format.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally countered my own spell to draw 3 cards on the next player's upkeep, and I was able to win the game. So the card is just good. It's really hard to argue against it, in my opinion.
Yep, it's better to let your opponent draw two than to let them win the game, right? Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of the few generic counter spells that we have that just counters anything, which is very important to say.
yeah, I think that's why it's really hard to cut this for something like a negate.
Yep,
Just
agreed.
because being able to hit creatures is so relevant.
Yep, definitely. But with the next one, our Chaomancer. So before we even sat down, like the pre-show, where me and Puzzle here were just talking, we both agree on one thing. Our Chaomancer is much better than a lot of people give it credit for outside of Flicker decks. I recently put a single copy of Archaeomancer in my Malcolm Kedis list, and I know you have a single copy in your Gretchen list.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it happens to have a combo line in Gretchen, but I don't go for that combo line very often. Um,
yeah.
Notably, this is a wizard, so it's searchable by a lot of the blue wizard cycling cards.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 4 mana, get a spell back. Pretty solid. Like, it's just
Yeah.
good.
Yep. It's just a good card. It's should get a little bit more credit than it does, and yeah, definitely the card is strong.
Next up, we have a couple cards that we can kind of lump together, I think.
Yep.
We have Boomerang and Capsize. Both read return target permanent to its owner's hand. Um, one happens to have buyback for 3 but costs 1 extra mana. Very solid pieces of interaction. The most generic interaction you can get for removal. Any permanent means you can hit lands, so it stops decks like Gretchen if they have 2, 3 land enchantments on a land. Just bounce the land, call it a day. And yeah, it hits literally everything else that's in play too. So you're never gonna be like, oh man, I have this kill spell, but I can't hit the Relic of Progenitus that's stopping me from doing my grave stuff, or yada yada,
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, you said it. Good.
Good.
I mean, they're good, bro. Like you said everything about it. I got no, I can't add anything.
Alrighty, you want to take away the next one then? Very
Yeah, man.
complicated card, 3 words in the title.
Yes. The most generic one we got here, guys. Counterspell. We did it. Should not. Yeah, that's it. Next one.
Yep, it's anything. Same
um,
as Arcade Denial, but without the
yep,
potential downside or
yep.
upside.
Good card. Just good card. Um, this one I think is a little bit of a debate. I have always thought this card is good, and we're talking about days. And Puzzle, I think you should take this one from me because you are now a believer in days.
Yeah, I used to think this card was not good, and I think it was not good in the format. But I think the format has sped up a good bit, and people are playing a lot more greedy. And being able to punish those like turn 1, 2, and 3 just burst plays, like someone turboing out a Dargo or a loyal subordinate and just burning them with this feels so good. Um, the card kind of sucks in the late game. You almost never get to counter things in the late game, which feels really bad. But it's just so oppressive in the early game that I like this card a lot.
Yep, agreed, agreed. Uh, Move on to the next one, and that'll be Dizzy Spell. So I actually am not a fan of this card. Yeah, that's.
I think this card's perfectly fine. I went ahead and put every transmute card on this list because I think that you still have to consider them at least.
I actually don't think any of the transmute cards should be here. The only reason, whether that's a hot take to most of you guys or not, is that I've actually been cutting a lot of these transmute cards from decks of mine because every time I end up showing an opponent when I tutor for a card, they end up killing me. So I've gotten really frustrated with that, and I like to keep my information more hidden now. I'll still play cards like Dizzy Spell here and there, though, but I have been cutting them more and more just
I
because the free information has been really rough lately.
It's rough, but I really think just you gotta tutor smarter, man. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
like
if I was playing Gretchen, sure.
if you're gonna tutor for the high tide with this card, do it on the turn you're gonna cast the high tide and win.
Well, we can't talk about High Tide. I get the freest wins with High Tides every time, so
But if
that's
but
the
like
only deck I play Dizzy
you
Spell
can
like
also
all the time.
well yeah, but if you're in blue, I don't know why you're not.
Yeah.
Did we not put it on the list? We should probably put that on the list. Um,
Well,
but also, you can tutor other things with this. You can tutor interaction. You can tutor dispel or
well,
whatever.
so hear me out. I'm okay with Dizzy Spell being here for one of the most awkward reasons. Most of the transmute cards' other abilities are not good, like Shred Memory and Brain Spoil. I don't find them to be
Well,
very relevant.
shred
I've
memory is
never
good, but
I've
continue.
never lost to a Shred Memory,
I
but
have killed people with shred memory.
yeah, I've never lost to one, so I have no faith in it. But I actually try to swing into somebody with a lethal Dargo attack, and I double striked it, and then they shrunk it with a Dizzy Spell. So I thought that was cute.
Yeah,
So I'll give Dizzy Spell. It's good against a Dargo,
dizzy
but that's
spell
pretty
is
much all I
castable,
got.
at least,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
which is nice.
So
But yeah, we could talk about the castable side of transmute spells from now on, I guess. But just as a carpet statement, uh, I still think transmute is good. Chris does
yeah.
not.
Whoa, 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 God.
So,
Whoa.
bro, that's what you said. Um,
Okay, Muddle is nuts. How about that one?
so
That's
let's
my
go
favorite
on to
one.
the next transmute card, Drift of Phantasms.
Okay, yeah, 0-5 wall.
Once
Good
again,
job.
it's castable if you absolutely have to. But this is
uh,
probably the best transmute card just because it's 3 mana, and a lot of cards that we're comboing with are 3 mana in this format.
yeah,
So,
gets alter, which
yeah.
is yeah,
Alter, Freed from the Real, Ghostly Flicker.
yep,
So much.
very good. So let's move on. I think this is another one that we spoke about in the pre-show as well. Echoing Truth. You guys, if you're not playing this card, you're wrong. Like this card's disgusting. Like this card is disgusting. Here's a fun fact. Abdel and Third Path Iconoclast creatures are the same creature type. I was able to beat my friend the other day because I bounced my Abdel creature tokens, and it bounced all of theirs because they had a sack outlet and they were able to sack their soldiers. So I just bounced one of mine and it was able to name all theirs. It's a
Wait,
really weird play.
did you
What's
say
up?
TPI and
TPI. They're soldier tokens.
the same name? Yeah,
Name.
I guess it doesn't
Yeah.
care that they're artifacts, huh?
Yep, it's
That's
name.
so
Yeah.
messed up. That's actually
Yeah, they're the same name. Yeah, was super awkward line of play. I ended up winning that game because of that, because they actually drifted for the altar, and yeah, I was just like, well, I gotta stop it now. So I bounced all their tokens, and they weren't able to combo off.
that's funny. Um, yeah,
Yep.
Echoing Truth is a card that I was really hesitant to play when I started playing it because I was like, it doesn't really come up that much though, and it comes up a decent bit. Um, and even when it doesn't, it's still just a bounce spell, which is
Yep.
totally fine.
Yep.
So I would
Card
definitely
is good.
play this over into the Royal now.
Oh
For
yeah,
sure.
all day, all day. Not. I don't think there's a competition. I know people are going to be like, "Well, you're crazy. Draws a card." No, play Echoing Truth. If you haven't played it, no, you're wrong. Sorry, I'm going there. Card's busted.
Okay, aggressive.
Aggressive,
Well, you
very
can go on
aggressive.
ahead and take the next aggressive take on our list too.
Oh, Gataxian Probe. Free information. Yeah, this card's insane. It's only one blue mana if you don't like paying 2 life. Yeah, your life is a resource. People play reanimate in other formats, right? Like that's a staple. So I don't see how you can't pay 2 life to look at somebody's hand. Um, I think this card is supposed to be, if you're in blue, you should be playing this card. Cards not, it's free. Makes your deck one less card.
Yeah,
So
it's one I've been trying to find room for in Gretchen. Um, card's obviously very strong, and yeah, free information is always free information, and it's always strong. So unless your
yep.
deck has just an absurd amount of protection, uh, you should probably play this card. 2 life is
So
not that much.
I will add this quick caveat. If you're a new player to the format, you definitively should be playing this card. Looking at your opponent's hands and being able to see what they have is so important for you to learn the format with.
It makes the game
And
so easy. Like
yes, it
it
does. Yes, it
simplifies
does.
so much. Like it is
Yep.
strong.
And you could even withhold that information from your opponents. And that just makes you that much more like it makes you a stronger player overall because now you can make plays based off of their hand and they don't know, the other players don't know what they have. So it's just a strong card, especially if you're new to the format.
Or you could yell about that win in hand, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah,
So
our next one is a pretty tame one, I would say. Lorien Revealed. 5 mana draw 3. That's all it does. Sorcery speed. Yeah, obviously the important text on this card is Island Cycling for 1 mana. It's the cheapest Island Cycler we have.
yeah.
It's a
Mystic Sanctuary.
yes, Surface Mystic
Busted.
or any of the duels, and the spell is castable. 5 mana draw 3 is not great, but it's not bad by any means. And hey, if
Card is
you
so
tutor
good.
Mystic Sanctuary, you can use Mystic Sanctuary and put this back on top of your deck, which is a really cute interaction.
I have literally done that plenty of times now.
Yeah.
I do that in Abdel all the time.
So yeah, this
All
card,
the time.
pretty good.
Yep. But the next one, Memory Lapse. This
This
card
is
kind of
not a
speaks.
memory lapse. Oh, you want to talk about memory lapse? I cut it on
Is
my
that?
end.
Oh,
We can talk about
whoop.
it. Let's talk about it.
All right, Memory Lapse. Apparently, I did not refresh correctly. I actually think Memory Lapse it's a 50-50 in my eyes. If you didn't notice, we ended up cutting it, but I did not refresh correctly. But I've actually seen this win games and lose games, so it's been very polarizing to me. But some cute interactions I've seen is people countering their own spell to put it on top of their library in a counter war, so they can attempt to win the game next turn. And I've also seen it to where you lose because you counter somebody's win attempt and then they just have it on top of their library and then they just win the game next turn. So
Yeah, this card's really situation dependent, but it's very strong in terms of just like threats that aren't immediately winning the game. Countering them with this is very strong. It's very good in counter spell wars. To just
yes, very much.
rip that counter out of the game, and then they have to draw a counter spell next turn, um, and that
Yep.
everybody knows about, which is really funny.
Yeah, it's a great play. Like
Obviously,
fantastic.
it sucks against some decks. Like Gretchen, cool, you countered my Freed, activate Gretchen, cast
Yeah.
Freed.
Yep.
But
I've seen that so often.
I
It's
have,
a, so
yeah,
I will say that's one reason why I'm not as high on this card anymore because Gretchen is one of if not the strongest deck of the format, and this card is so bad against it. So
yeah, and that's a fair take. But I think this card's very good.
yep. But the next one, Merchant Scroll. I mean, this card speaks for itself. It's our only true like tutor of the format. It's the closest demonic tutor we have, right? Just 2 mana sorcery speed, search for a blue instant. Ta-da, we did it. Card is good, card is strong.
Well,
So
I mean, technically, transmute is less conditional, but
really? You think so? I don't
yeah,
think so.
this
Nah,
is
getting the
blue
mana
and instant.
costs?
That's two conditions. Mana cost is only one
Sure. Alright,
condition.
fine.
But yeah,
Fine.
no, Merchant Scroll obviously very strong. Good card.
Yep.
Gets a lot of different things.
The next one, Moon Snare Prototype. So I was able to convince Puzzle here to put this on. This card has been very powerful. I've been sliding this into essentially all of my blue decks. I played in Malcolm, I played in Abdel, like you name it, I'm putting it in there. Being a 5 mana removal late game, tutorable by a Trinket Mage has been amazing. And or it just really helps you ramp out early and establish a board state.
I think this card is not great. I think it's fine. Like, don't get me wrong. The fact that it's a channel ability and not casting a spell for removal is relevant. Um, but the ramp part kind of sucks. Um,
It's a Springleaf Drum,
it's a
right?
Springleaf
Just
Drum, but it's
colorless.
colorless. And yeah, it costs a blue pip. And
Mm,
it's just
I
not
get it.
great. But, like, the card's still good. Like, modality's always good. And both sides are fine. Um, I wouldn't call it a
Yep.
staple, but it's here. Um,
Yep.
Next up is what I think is the best transmute card, because this is the most castable. It's just a
You
counter
said
spell.
you said drift is the best transmute spell. Are you
Yeah,
taking
but
that back?
this is the most castable one. Drift is the best for searching. This is the most
uh,
castable because this just
okay.
counters instant and sorceries. I've cast Muddle a good amount of times. Um,
Yeah. So have I. Muddle really is one of those cards that speaks for itself. It's great in counter wars. I have if I'm playing blue, there is a muddle in my deck.
yep.
So,
Uh,
uh,
Shore up.
yes, this card has one little weird part of text that I think people really forget about, and one reason why it should be here, and that is the untap. And if you're in a free deck, you should be playing this card. Like,
Yeah.
hands down. Like, no argument.
Yeah, I didn't want to put this on here at first because I thought I was biased towards this card because I was like, this card's busted in Gretchen. But is it really a staple? And yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's 1 mana protection. It's +1/+1 and it untaps, which are additional 2 lines of text that are both relevant.
Yep.
Untapping gets you blocker, and +1/+1 can still protect you from damage-based sweeper removal that's non-targeted. So.
Yep. Or it lets you attempt to win the game with a kill spell on the stack.
Yeah.
The card is insane. People really sleep on a lot of these cards. So I'm big fan of Shore Up. I think the card is fantastic. So
Yeah. Next up is Snap. Uh, it's more removal. This one only hits creatures, but it untaps up to 2 lands.
card is disgusting.
It's
It's a combo piece, it's a removal piece, it's a ramp piece. Card is disgusting.
yeah, you still have to hold up mana, so it's not like it's not as free as some other interaction that's free, but it's still free after you cast it. So if you're holding
Yep.
multiple pieces of interaction, very, very powerful.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Card is just insane. Like I love it in any of my high tide decks.
Oh,
So card's good. Um Step through, our last but not least. So step through, I will have to say, the return to target creature mode on this card has come up way more often than I have ever given it credit for in the past. And the fact that it is a 2 mana wizard cycling card is absurd. I used to think that this first line of text on the card was irrelevant, and I will tell you that I understand that 5 mana is quite a bit, but the return to creature has been absurdly powerful in decks lately.
yeah, it comes up. The only way it could be better was if it was instant speed. I wouldn't even reduce the mana cost. Just make it instant speed.
Yep.
Same. Uh,
Yep. Oh, then the card would be disgusting if it was an instant. Like it
yeah.
would be, it would be insane. So, but yeah, that's all for the blue cards, guys. Let's move on to black. You want to take us away with the first one?
Yeah. First up, we have Blood Fountain. This card's nothing spectacular, but it's good. It's a solid card. It does multiple things. It's 1 mana.
Yeah.
It gives you 2 artifacts if your deck cares.
Yep. I mean, literally, we were having in the pre-show, we were talking about this card and had brought it up, and I literally could not think of a single deck that plays black that does not play this card anymore. This card is a true staple. Every single deck that I could think of that had black, this card was in it. It's just generically good. At 1 mana, it could sit on the battlefield. The blood token, being able to like pitch something you don't need and try to hunt for a land or hunt for removal. I mean, the card is just so good. And when you play it in like decks that are synergistic, like Abdel and or like Sivaris, the value of this card goes up through the roof. So, card is very strong.
And then after that, we have Brain Spoil.
We just skipped that one. That one's just hot trash.
Yeah. You can cast the spell, but 5 mana sorcery speed removal is not very good. The only way it's relevant is if there's regeneration for some reason, which does happen. It's not a non-zero thing in this format, but yeah, for the most part, this is just a tutor for a 5-drop, which is usually pairing at Drake.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Consider it if you're playing Flicker.
Yep.
Chain
Agreed.
Devil.
So notably, we were once again talking about all of the Edict creatures, and they're seeing a lot of play right now. But as a staple, I really don't think all of them are. Like sitting down with Puzzle and us, just having a conversation about it. But this one particularly has the clause that says non-token creature, and with all the tokens running around, this one stock just goes through the roof. I've seen this just end third path iconoclast, Abdel's, Guts. This card is very strong.
Definitely the best one out of the creatures, obviously. I
Yep.
think you said it all.
Yep.
Crypt Rats. This is a board wipe on a stick. Strong card. It's a creature, which means it's easy to get back. in black.
Card's been good. Card is
Yeah,
just
it's
been
been a
around forever.
staple for all of time in this format.
Yep. Gotta play Crypt Rats. Love it. Understand you're gonna play against this card. It exists.
Dark Ritual.
So there was a huge thing about rituals are bad and rituals were this a few years back now. I think a lot of that has been pushed gone. But even in that era, Dark Ritual to me has always just been a free card. Even with when like the Armix era and all of these like cheaper commanders, it was just a turn one Armix was just so good against decks like Tatiova because you got underneath their counter spells. And just through the times, it hasn't changed with any like loyal subordinate or even just having a dark ritual to pay into pestilence, right? Like dark ritual is just a good card.
Yeah, I mean, if Crypt Rats is a staple, why not make everyone think you only have one black pip and then pump it up to three out of nowhere, right?
Exactly.
At bare minimum. And yeah, like card is good.
Yep. Agreed.
Tamir Houseguard, another transmute card with a pretty castable front side actually. I
The
don't cast it, but I don't play decks that care about this very often.
this so with a few other cards on our list, I believe that's why Demir Houseguard's front side is now so disgustingly relevant now. So just as a tidbit, Markwood Bats and Nadir's Nightblade, we're not there to those yet. But because those cards exist, Demir Houseguard has become so much stronger. And the regenerating clause is actually very relevant for cards like Pestilence or other things of that nature. But it has Fear. It's a 2/3. Card is good. Card is very good.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Feed the Swarm. I think that this is still a very strong removal spell. It's sorcery speed and it costs life, both of which kind of suck. But it hits creature or enchantment, so especially if you're in mono black, having access to enchantment removal is nice. But it's just generic enough that I don't hate playing it.
Yeah, good card. Next, go for the throat. I mean, I think this is the best 2 mana removal spell we have in the format. When they downshifted this, I was like, heck yes. I don't really have that much to say about it though. It's just good.
Yep, it's a kill spell that hits pretty much everything.
Yep. All right. So these are the next two. We're gonna lump these two together, you guys. Mirkwood Bats and Nadir's Nightblade. These are just staples now. They are attempting to breathe life into so many new decks and trying to push certain decks that weren't in the meta at all. Abdel, Sivaris, Gut, a few other of these variants exist now because of these two cards. They're incredibly powerful.
Yeah, strong win conditions, similar to the Pinger Curiosity stuff, except you don't get to draw cards off of them. But um, they are in black, so they're different. And yeah, just strong cards.
Yep. Very strong cards.
Next up,
So,
got
yes, take it away.
Not Dead After All, and we're lumping all of these together as well. This is the only one we put on the list, but the 1 mana until end of turn, whenever the creature would die, bring it back. Uh, they're all very, very solid options for protecting not only your combo pieces, but your commander or any value pieces. Or if you're playing Edict creatures, you can get extra value out of them. Um, Black
Yep.
just has a lot of easy synergy.
Yep.
Card.
Agreed. They're good cards. Play them. Some number. You don't have to play them all, but some number
At least a
definitely
couple.
should be in the deck. Yeah, exactly. The next one, Shred Memory. Like I said earlier, I've never lost to this card. I have friends that lost to this card, but
It's
I'm not
Grave
too
Hate.
high on the front half.
I think Grave Hate is plenty playable,
Yeah.
especially since it's 4 cards. If it's like a more value-oriented Grave deck, you can really screw someone over, which is really funny. But
Yeah.
at bare minimum, you can exile a Ghostly Flicker, right? Um,
Yep.
and
Yeah, the fact that
Transmute,
it's instant speed is good.
yeah. And then we have Snuff Out. Um, once again, similar argument to G Pro. Uh, doing things for 0 mana is pretty powerful, even if it costs you life. And this is removal. This one's a little bit conditional, which is annoying. But to be honest, I don't see much black in the format right now, so the condition isn't that bad.
Yep, agreed. I will say the it can't be regenerated clause has mattered quite a few times. So just throwing that out there.
Yep, I have lost a game to that clause before.
Yep.
It sucks.
But that's all our black. Let's move on to the red, you guys. And so, ironically enough, I'm not a fan of one of these. I'm only a fan of one of these, and that is Breath Weapon and Fiery Cannonade. Um, I like Fiery Cannonade. Don't really like Breath Weapon. I know that sounds weird, but yeah.
He's got the wrong take. Both of these cards are good. Breath Weapon kills Malcolm. Fiery Cannonade doesn't. That's
that's why you
pretty
shouldn't
much the
play.
only difference.
Yeah, don't play Breath Weapon. Don't kill
Um,
my Malcolm.
so Chris doesn't want you guys to kill his Malcolm, so he wants you to just play Fiery Cannonade. But if you're not playing Malcolm, play Breath Weapon.
Yep.
Assuming you're not on both.
Yep.
But,
I don't play Breath Weapon in Malcolm, obviously, and I play Fiery Cannonade and love it.
Yeah,
so
these cards are good. They hit a lot of the smaller combo pieces in the format, which are most combo pieces that are not part of Flicker or like the big Banishing Knack creatures.
yep.
They hit a lot.
Agreed. Yeah, they're both good cards, definitely.
And it's a speed. But next up is one of your favorites.
It is. So it's Goblin Matron, guys. If you don't know yet, this is one of the best tutors of the format. I understand that might sound weird, but it gets any of the shape-shifting cards, any of the changeling cards, from Crib Swap to any of the Malcolm combo pieces to Shields of Velasfail. I mean, there's just so much that this card could get. And there's also just so much utility in the Goblin arc, like the whole archetype of them as a whole. Well, that it's just a powerful card, like very much so.
Yeah, there's so many relevant targets.
Yeah, if you're in red black or white red or like you have so many good options. So the card is just amazing. Definitely you should be playing. If you're playing red and that card is not in your deck, you should Google some goblins and see what you can
at
pull
least
up.
consider a package because there's some
Yeah.
stuff.
There's some busted goblins that really could push your game plan ahead. Like just little goblins that are they're just so strong with utility. So
yeah. Next is a card we've talked about a lot on this podcast. Heated Debate. One of my
why are you guys not playing this card?
This card is so good.
This card is so good. We talk about it all the time. Play this card.
Nothing about this card that you cannot read and understand. It does exactly what it says it does.
And it does it well. It does it when you need it to happen and they can't fight for it. It is good. And it kills Abdel. Like, what? Like, come on. So,
let's move on to a card that doesn't kill Abdel.
uh-oh.
Lightning Bolt.
I mean, do we have to talk about Bolt? It's Bolt, guys.
I've seen so many people in normal Commander and this format be like, Bolt's not good. Why would I bolt something? Like,
Yeah, that's
it's a
like
kill
such a
spell. What
hot
do you
take. It's
mean?
that's just a hot take, bro. Like
It's
that
one
is an
mana
actual hot
removal.
take. Yeah.
Like, and they're
In
like,
normal commander, it kills Draenith. Like, what are we doing
even in
here? In
normal commander, they're like, what does it even kill? And I'm like, oh, buddy.
yeah,
Uh,
the list goes on forever. The amount of creatures that I could think of that kill that lightning bolt kills in our format are disgusting. Like, just look at Nadir's Nightblade and Mirkwood Bats. Kills them both. Like,
yeah, this
card
has
is good.
so many things. Please play it.
Yep.
And it goes face if it has to. Heated debate can't do that.
Yes, that is notable.
But yeah, we can talk about Reckless Impulse and Rin's Resolve. They're both on here. Exact same card.
Different
Sorcery
name.
Speed Impulse draw 2. Uh,
Till
it's
next
2 mana
turn.
draw 2. And yeah,
Yep.
in red, notably.
Yes.
Um,
Play them.
yeah,
The
it's
end. Play
very
them.
hard to not play these cards, I think.
Yep. Next is Skred. So I know everybody plays this card. It's a good. It scales, so it's good. It's the Red Defile, right?
I mean, it's just Bolt that doesn't hit face. It's this card's good.
Yep.
Um, it will pretty much always kill what you need it to kill. Yeah. Removal. Also removal. Thunderclap.
Didn't you say it already? Free spells are good.
Yeah, some people are really scared of paying the alternate cost on this card. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, guys. Like,
Yep. I have seen many people just auto lose to this card. I have had this is the other card that I was alluding to earlier about the biggest blowouts. I've had so many blowouts when I tap out and they get so comfortable to combo off and then I thunderclap them just completely out of the game because they miss sequence, right? And they'll just be like, everybody's tapped out. I'm just here it is, and I'm like, or you sequence correctly. They're like, no, no one has anything. I'm like, okay, thunderclap, skadoosh.
it definitely happens.
So,
Those
but that was
are our red cards. Yeah.
yeah. Let's move on to the biggest color.
Let's move on to our stretch of 6 cards for green.
All right, we really struggled to find green cards, guys. If okay, how about this one? Do us a favor. If you think there are some green cards in the format that should be on this list, please put them in the comments down below. It was really hard even putting some of these cards on here, truth be told. So green is yeah, it's pretty rough out there for green these days.
Yeah. First on our list is Arbor Elf. Uh, it's the best 1 mana dork. Typically.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yep.
sometimes you didn't cast it with a forest, and then it's really awkward. But generally, it has the highest. It easily has the highest ceiling on all the
Oh,
one
by
mana
far.
dorks. Because if you put a single land enchantment, it's automatically insane. But
Yep.
even on its own, pretty good.
Yep. Next one is Masked Vandal. I will have to say this one, it's a changeling. That's one reason why it's here. It's been good. I needed it to be a squirrel for me, and it was. I've needed it to be an elf for me, and it is. Like, it's very good. It's a 1/3, so it's got a really good toughness. And being able to exile a artifact or enchantment has been very, very good. So
Yeah, obviously there's a bit of a cost that can be difficult in the early game, so it's not
yep.
great against turbo combo decks, but for the most part, just a very solid card.
Yep. Agreed.
Next up is Tamiyo's Safekeeping. This is probably the best protection spell for green, I would say. Um,
Yep.
it's any permanent you control, hexproof and indestructible, so it gets around board wipes, and you gain 2 life, which has won me a
Many
entire
games.
tournament. Um,
Yep. 2 life is a big deal. Like
so
it's
yeah,
so relevant.
um,
Yeah.
card's great.
Yes, you should be playing it. Agreed, agreed.
Uh,
The next one, Utopia Sprawl. So we have Utopia Sprawl and we have Wild Growth on here, you guys. Um, I'm not sure how to feel about these cards. So take it away, Gretchen player. Tell me why.
I mean, obviously these cards are great if you're untapping your lands, but
Yep.
even if you're not, we have Arbor Elf on this list, right? So 1 mana dork. Well,
Yep,
guess what?
exactly.
If you have 2 lands, you can use 1 mana to cast one of these and put it on the other land, and then you don't lose mana that turn, and it's ramp for every turn from that point on.
Yep.
So these
They're
are
very good.
effectively 0 mana in those situations.
Yep. Yeah, they're very good cards. Definitely agree. But last but not least in green, Vines of the Vastwood. This card's very good. I have killed people with that kicker. So
It comes up
yeah,
and
it,
it pumps against damage based removal that red has.
yep. And once again, just like our others, this targets your opponent's creatures.
Yep, good
So
interaction. Comes up a
yep,
lot.
exactly. So, but that's all of our green, you guys. Sorry that that one wasn't too exciting, but last but not least, let's
Colorless.
get to these colorless, you guys.
My favorite
And
card
let
in the format.
oh, here we go. Take it away then.
Aether
Take it
Spellbomb.
away.
Guys, you need to buy this card. Everyone buy this card. Like, buy as many copies off TCG players as you can. Buy this
Oh
card.
my gosh.
Um, now, it's removal that costs 2 mana. Um, and you can pay it in increments. And once it hits the field, on turn 1 or 2, preferably, everyone knows it's there, so they play pretty scared around it. And it's not a spell anymore, it's an ability. So it works around counter spells and can just win
Yep.
games. And at bare minimum, it draws a card, which sucks, but it's workable. Especially if you don't find your blue mana for some reason.
Yeah. Agreed. I will say this. The card tests his player skills without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely.
Um, I will throw that out there at you guys. I'm not going to dive too deep because I'll get on a little tangent about this card. But if someone plays this card against you and that card beats your deck, it should be pretty obvious that you go after that player.
Well,
Because then you can
sometimes,
never beat them.
it still depends. Um, if you know that another player is gonna force them to use it, let them force you to use it. It
Yep.
really depends, and that's what makes
Yeah.
this card so difficult to play and to play around. But
Yep.
my god, is
Agreed.
it rewarding?
It is. It is. It's won me many, many games for more reasons than not. Even it's won me games in Abdel where I bounced my own Abdel to begin the loot process. So, card is very strong.
Next up is Arcane Signet. We really don't have to go deep on this.
Yep.
2 mana untapped rock that taps for all your
Yeah.
colors. The best two
The,
rock in the
and then our last
game.
but
Done.
not least card of the day, Relica Progenitus. I don't know how many times we've spoken about Play Graveyard Hate. Um, it's just like Spellbomb, right? You could just pop it to draw a card. It's really good at keeping Treasure Cruise decks down. It's card is very powerful. I don't believe it goes in every deck, but it really is a great tempo card. If you could provide some sort of threat and then use this to tempo decks out, you will win the game.
Yeah, I mean, it draws a card at its worst, which is perfectly fine. You don't want to play this if you're using your graveyard, obviously, but it's searchable with our 1 mana transmute card, which is pretty neat, as well as Trinket Mage. So it's fairly tutorable in our format, and yeah, it's just a solid card. Sees
Yeah.
a pretty good amount of play.
Yeah. But with that said, we're all done. So really nice being back here with you, Puzzle. Definitely nice being back and excited to keep moving forward. But anything else you got for him?
I think that's all. Good to close us out.
Yeah, my bro, close this out.
Alrighty. Thank you everybody for watching. If you have any ideas on what kind of videos we should do, or you just want to get in contact with us, you can feel free to support us on Patreon. We've got the link to that down in the description. And while you're down there checking it out, be sure to leave a like, comment, let us know any staples we missed, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you all next time.